Welcome back to the KUD MCOM entrance test training, CET training. So in today's class, we are going to start with your topics. What are the topics which have been asked in the MCOM exam? So if you see the university notification, the syllabus says that the topics which you have covered in BCom all the 6 semesters. But practically it may not be feasible for all of you to study all the topics which you have studied in the BCom 3 years through all the 6 semesters. So that is the reason we have taken some time and we have analyzed the last 7 years PG CET question papers of Karnataka University, of other universities also, and consolidated some important topics which are very important and which are regularly asked. So according to that topics, we have framed the questions. We have taken the questions from the old question papers as well. According to that only the training is going to happen, so that in very less time we can make sure that you are achieving good marks. So here are the contents. You can see on the screen: the financial and corporate accounting, cost accounting, management accounting, business communication, marketing management, financial management, economics, computer, banking and insurance, tax, auditing, company and business law, general knowledge and other miscellaneous topics. So first we are going to start with the financial and corporate accounting. So in financial and corporate accounting, we have taken all the important topics which have been asked till date. So we will start from a very basic thing which is called as the bookkeeping. So what is the meaning of a bookkeeping? Bookkeeping is nothing but recording the financial transactions and events. Whatever the transactions are happening, those transactions we have to record in the book of accounts. That is called as the bookkeeping. Then what do you mean by accounting? Let me tell you, I have told you the definition of bookkeeping. So how the question can be expected in this one? They may ask you in such a way that bookkeeping is a recording of dash transactions, financial, economical, political, like that. Okay, so the filling blanks also will be there. So next is accounting. What do you mean by accounting? In the bookkeeping, we have recorded the transaction. In the accounting, we are going to record, classify and summarize the financial data, whatever we have derived in the books. And basis on that, we are going to interpret the results. Interpreting the results means what? To estimate whether the company is going good or whether the company is not going good. What are the improvement options available, where the investment has to be done less. All that analysis and classification points are given by the accounting process. In accounting, we have various types of accounting. In advanced commerce, you will come to know, in MCOM and all, you will come to know HR accounting will be there. So in that, here we are going to focus on financial accounting. So financial accounting is a branch of accounting that keeps the systematic record of financial transactions. Okay, financial transaction is an important word here. Then what are the financial statements? Financial statements, there are 3. Number 1, trading account. Second one is the profit and loss account, and third one is the balance sheet. Trading account shows the gross profit and gross loss. Profit and loss account shows the net profit and the net loss. Balance sheet shows the financial position of the company. Now, what is the system of accounting? In the accounting, there are 2 systems mainly. One is called as the double entry system and second is called as the single entry system. In the BCom, all the problems and all you might have learnt, that is double entry system. So double entry system, where both the aspects are recorded. Like when I say account, 2 aspects will be there. One is a debit, one is a credit. If something is debited, something else has to be created. So debit and credit, both the aspects are recorded. So here in BCom and PUC you might have learnt the American system, the golden rules, all those things we have summarized in just 4 lines. If it is assets and if value increases, you have to debit. If it is an expenses and the value increases, we have to debit. If it is liabilities and capital, if the value increases, we have to credit. If it is revenue and gains, if the value increases, we have to credit. Okay, so other thing is vice versa. Like if assets increase debit, decrease it will be what? Credit. Expenses and losses, increase is debit, decrease will be credit. Liabilities and capital, increase will be credit, decrease will be what? Debit. Revenue and gains, increase is credit, decrease will be what? Debit. Then single entry system. You might have seen your parents or you yourself might be maintaining a small book, a diary, where you will be writing all whatever expenses you have done and some hand loans you have taken from your friends. All those things you might be writing. So that itself is called as a single entry system. Here we maintain the personal account. A personal cash book is maintained. So for personal use we do single entry system. Then accounting can be recorded in 2 systems or on 2 bases. Like when we are going to record something in the accounts, that is, the first one is the cash basis. Cash basis means what? The entries are made when the cash is received. Then the second one is accrual basis. Accrual basis is the entries are made when they occur. Like the revenues and costs, they recognize when they occur, irrespective of the fact that the cash has been received or not. Then there is something called as a GAAP, which is generally accepted accounting principles. So we have learnt, we have seen that in so many question papers they give GAAP stands for 4 options will be given. So it is generally accepted accounting principles. So see, accounting is a methodology. So any method or any system if you are following, there has to be certain set of principles which have to be followed. That is the reason GAAP was introduced. So GAAP will have rules and guidelines adopted for the recording and reporting the business transactions. And they have 2 parts in the GAAP. One part is called as the concepts, another part is called as the conventions. Concepts and conventions. So in brief, these are the concepts and conventions. We have listed it. Business entity concept. Business entity concept, you might have studied. What do you mean by business entity? See, business entity concept says that the business is a separate entity. It is a separate entity. The owner and the business are not same. The second one is the money measurement concept. What do you mean money measurement concept? Here it says all the terms, all the transactions in the organization are expressed in terms of money, and only those which are expressed in terms of money should be taken in the accounting system. That is money measurement. Next is going concern concept. What do you mean going concern? Going concern means the business is going to continue for infinite time or indefinitely. Business is going to continue. That is called as the going concern. Then accounting period concept. That concept is nothing but a span between which the accounting records have to be maintained and have to be closed. We also call it as a financial year. In India, the financial year starts on April 1st, ends on March 31st. So March 31st they do closing of the financial year. Then the cost concept. So the concept requires that the assets are recorded in the book of accounts at their purchase price, which includes cost of acquisition, transportation, installation, and making the asset ready for use. That is called as the cost concept. Then there is something called as the dual aspect concept. Dual aspect concept. What do you mean dual aspect? Dual means two. That means what? Every transaction will have twofold effect, and it should therefore be recorded at two places. It should be recorded at two places. The dual aspect concept. The next is the revenue recognition concept. So revenue recognition concept says that revenue is considered to have realized when a transaction has been entered into and the obligation to receive the amount has been established. That means what? Once the transaction is entered, only then we can consider it as a revenue. Otherwise it is not a revenue. Next is the matching concept. Matching concept states that the expenses incurred in the accounting period should be matched with the revenue of the same period. Same period. Okay, matching concept. Then materiality concept. What do you mean materiality? The concept of materiality means that we have to focus on conveying the material information only. Then there is something called as the objectivity concept. Objectivity concept requires that the accounting transaction should be recorded in an objective manner. It should not be on the basis of bias of the accountants or the prejudice of the accountants. Then there is something called as the full disclosure concept. So in the name itself suggests full disclosure means the disclosure of all the relevant and material facts of the financial enterprise, financial performance of an enterprise should completely be disclosed in the financial statements, and they should also have the footnotes. Then the convention in consistency concept. So the convention of consistency means what? The accounting policies and practices should be consistent over a large period of time. Then the convention of conservatism concept. So the convention of conservatism concept shows that profit should not be recorded until realized, but the losses should be recorded even if there is a remote possibility. So your all the accounting things will go on these concepts. Now very important, these are called as the accounting standards. So accounting standards also every year 2 or 3 questions they are asking. Like they may ask you cash flow pertains to accounting standard 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see on the screen that the cash flow pertains to the accounting standard 3. This way the accounting standards are being asked every year. So there is a reason you please make a list of these accounting standards and try to remember to what does that accounting standard pertains to. You can pause this video and you can make a note of all these accounting standards. AS1 pertains to the policies, AS2 pertains to the inventories, AS3 pertains to the cash flow, AS4 pertains to the events which occur after the balance sheet is prepared, AS5 pertains to the net profit or loss for the period, AS6 is nothing but related to the depreciation, AS7 is construction contracts. So please pause the video and please make a note of all these accounting standards in one paper, and please read it twice or thrice. No need to by heart. Automatically when the options are there in front of you, you can very easily recognize the option. So you can see there are 32 accounting standards. Okay, so these are the accounting standards. Please pause the video and make note of the accounting standards. Next is the rectification of errors. Errors are inevitable. because it is a human work. So the errors are inevitable. Errors may happen. Error may happen like you are making some entry, you may post it in wrong ledger, you may not make the entry at all, or you may make two separate entries, thus the effect may come same. So that is the reason the errors are classified into two types. One is called as the clerical errors, one is called as the error of principle. So you can see on the screen the error of commission is first type of the clerical error. So clerical errors are those errors which are in fact made by the persons erroneously. Erroneously means what? He knows the principle, he knows the concept, but by mistake he has written it somewhere else. So one is the error of commission. Error of commission is nothing but the wrong posting of the transaction. Wrong posting of the transaction means what? Posting the transaction in another what you call the wrong journal entry we can call. Okay. Next is the error of omission. So as the word says, omission means what? Removal or leaving. So error of complete omission. Complete omission means I am entirely not recording the transaction. Then the error of partial omission. Partial omission means I am entering the transaction in only some way. Then there is something called as a compensating errors. Compensating errors means what? The errors which you have done, but it will not show in your financial statements. Even though you are recorded wrongly, the balance sheet will match, the trial balance will match. That means what? You have written the liabilities as liabilities, the assets are under assets, but you have written it under the different heads. That is called as the compensating error. The second type of error which will come is the error of principle. Error of principle means he has completely ignored the principle of the accounting while what you call doing. These errors also may not show in the trial balance. Then there is something called as a bank reconciliation statement. So what do you mean by reconciliation? Reconciliation in broader terms means matching. Okay. Say for example, for all the 30 days you have been receiving some amount and you are depositing in the bank. So you have your own paper where you are writing that this amount has been received, this amount, and the bank passbook also will be there. There also it will be written this amount is deposited, this amount is deposited. So at the end of the week or at the end of the month, you take out your personal papers, you take out the bank, and you match both of those papers. So that process itself is called as the conciliation. Okay. So many a times what happens? The date may mismatch. Like you might have received amount today, but the bank might have got closed. So you are depositing that amount in bank tomorrow. So date mismatching may happen. Sometimes the complete deposit itself is not reflecting in the bank. Like you have deposited some check, you record it that the check has been given to the bank, but that has not been realized. It has got bounced. It has got returned. So that also we can find out by doing the bank reconciliation statement. Then there is something called as the what you call this bills of exchange. So bills of exchange are nothing but the instruments. They are the instruments. They are signed by the maker and who have to pay the person a certain sum of money. That is called as the bills of exchange. Then there is something called as the parties of bills of exchange. Who are the parties? Normally there are three parties: drawer, drawee, and the payee. Drawer, drawee, and the payee. Who is a drawer? Drawer is nothing but the maker who makes the order. Drawee is that person who accepts the order, and payee is that person with whom the amount is to be paid. Next is the types of bills of exchange. There are three types of bills of exchange. One is the trade bill, accommodation bill, bill at site. What is trade bill? Trade bill is done for the business transaction. What is accommodation help? Accommodation bill is nothing but a help, mutual help. It is not a business transaction, it is a mutual help. Like example, you are running a shop and suddenly you want some raw materials to be purchased. What you do? You just take a mutual hand loan from a neighboring shop, and tomorrow when the neighboring shop requires some amount, You also give, it is not recorded actually. It is a not recorded accommodation bill. Then something it is called as a bill at sight. So bill at sight is nothing but the bill which is payable exchange or payable on demand. Then accounting records for the not for profit organizations. Now what are not for profit organizations? Not for profit organizations are those organizations whose primary objective is not to earn the profit. Their primary objective are different. So that is called as the not for profit organizations. So not for profit organizations, some different accounting system is followed. One is the receipt and payment account is made. Okay, so these are the final accounts which are prepared in the not for profit organization. One is the receipt and the payment account. Then the second one is the income and the expenditure account. The income and expenditure account is made. Then the balance sheet is made. This is the accounting records for the not. Now next is the partnership. So this section is asked many times. So the definition of partnership is given in Partnership Act 1932. Which section? Section 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is section number 4. I will tell you a small trick. Nowadays means after 1950 or 1960, almost all the acts, the definitions are always taken in the section number 2 only. So that is the reason if any definition is coming, like definition of a company comes under section 2 of Company Law 2013, like that. So all this what do you mean by partnership? Partnership is the relationship between persons who have agreed to share the profits of the business carried on by all or any of them. How many are the number of partners? 2 is minimum. Maximum they have not given in the Partnership Act, but in the company law they have given it very clearly. If it is a banking business, 10. If it is non-banking business, maximum is 20. Or if it is a professional governed by the special acts, it may be up to 100. Next is partnership deed. So partnership deed is nothing but a kind of an agreement. It is a written document which contains all the details and terms and conditions of the partnership, like the profit sharing ratio, the interest on the capital, and the new ratio formation principle on the admission of the partner, or the new ratio formation principle on the death of a partner. All those things are taken in the partnership deed. So this is one of the primary document of a partnership. Next is what are the rules applicable if partnership deed is not there. Say for example, 2 friends are doing business. They are both are the partners. They have not made any agreement, but suddenly there arises a need where they have to come to the decision, but they don't have any partnership deed, they don't have any agreement. That point of time, what they can do, they have to follow the common principles laid down. The one is the interest on capital is not allowed. The interest on drawings is also not allowed. If some partner is giving loan to the business, then 6% interest should be given to that partner. Remuneration of the partner is also not allowed. So what are the accounting treatment for the partnership? So which are the accounts they create? One is they create profit and loss appropriation account. Now what is the appropriation account? Appropriation account means in the profit and loss account I have arrived to some amount. Like this is a profit. Okay. For example, 20,000 profit I have got. Then again I will extend that account. I will call some items as below the lines items, and what I should do with that 20,000, what I should do with that profit. That is called as the profit and loss appropriation account. So in partnership also this profit and loss appropriation account is done. Then the capital accounts for the partners are formed. Okay. So here what happens? One is the fixed capital account is formed. There the two kinds of one method is fixed capital account, where 2 methods are followed: capital account method and the current account method. And another is the fluctuating capital account method, where only one account is maintained. The 2 accounts are not maintained. Then what will happen when a partner is admitted. Admitted means what? See, two persons are doing the business. Third person comes and wants to join the business. So when the new person comes into the business, some things happen. What are those things? One is that new person will bring some goodwill with him. Like for example, some hotel is run with two people. Some famous chef arrives and he enters into that hotel business along with those two partners. So the news will be spread that the new chef has come and entered into the business. So that will enhance the business revenue. So that is how it will impact the partner. So that goodwill, we call it as a goodwill. So when a new partner enters, or when the admission of the partner happens, he brings some goodwill. So if that goodwill is done in cash, if he is paying it in cash, what to do? You have to credit to the sacrificing partner's capital or current account. You have to remember this: sacrificing partner's capital or current account. Okay. Then if the goodwill is brought in kind, means in the form of some materials, then we have to credit it to the premium for goodwill account. Remember this one: the goodwill which is brought in kind should be credited to the premium for goodwill account. Then the preparation of revaluation account has to be done, and the treatment of the accumulated profits and loss has to be done. How we have to treat those accumulated profit and loss? It should be according to the old profit sharing ratio. You have to remember these. Similarly, what has to be done when a partner dies? Death of a partner or retirement of a partner. Three people are running the business, and one person says that no, I am enough of this business. I would like to change the business, or I am shifting to some other place, or I am old. I have become old. I cannot run the business. In those scenarios, what and all you have to do? First is you have to adjust the goodwill. Then you have to prepare the revaluation account. Then we have to do the treatment of accumulated profits and losses. Then the accounting treatment of joint life policy. Then the preparing returning partners capital account. What is the dissolution of partnership form? What do you mean dissolution? Dissolution means what? Dissolution means the closing of the partnership firm. So it may happen in various ways. One is by mutual agreement, like both the partners are agreeing to close the partnership firm. Then it can happen by the compulsory dissolution. Compulsory dissolution means what? That some thing has happened which makes the firm to be closed compulsorily. Okay. So then there is something called as by notice on happening of an event, and the dissolution by the court. So these are some of the ways where the dissolution will happen. Then settlement of accounts. So after the dissolution, what you do? The settlement of accounts is done. So what we have to do in the settlement of accounts? Settlement of accounts, where it is given? It is given in the section 48. The section 48 of the Partnership Act 1932 deals with the settlement of the accounts. So when you are settling the accounts, two things are required to be done. One is how you are going to treat the losses. Losses are required to be paid first out of the profits. Okay, first whatever the profits are there, from there you pay the losses. Then application, then if still the losses are there, then you can make the payment from the partners' capital according to their capital profit sharing ratio. Then application of assets. So application of assets, how we are going to do? First we have to pay the third party debts. First we have to pay the third party debts. Application of assets. So when you are doing application of assets, the first priority goes to the third party debts. Third party debts. Third party debts. The second priority will go to the partner, pay to the partner according to their ratio. And then the third priority goes to the partner according to the capital. According to the capital. The fourth will go to the profit sharing ratio. According to the profit sharing ratio. So this is the order. You have to remember the order. Order is very important. Then we'll come to the joint stock company. What do you mean by joint stock company? What do you mean by a joint stock company? Joint stock company simply means the company which is formed according to law. The company which is incorporated according to law and which is carrying on the business activity. That is called as a joint stock company. So there are two types of joint stock companies. One is a private company and another is a public company. So these things are asked. For the private company, the minimum paid up share capital is 1 lakh and the minimum members are 2, the maximum members are 200. For the public company, the paid up capital is 5 lakhs, the minimum members are 7 and maximum number members is not defined. Maximum numbers, there is no restriction in the public limited company. Then the shares. What do you mean by a share? A share is a share of a person in the capital of the company. As I said, it is defined in the section number 2 of Companies Act 2013. So all the definitions come in the section 2. So section 2, the share means it is the share of a person in the capital of the company. So there are two types of shares, preference shares and equity shares. So preference shares will have two rights. Preference shares will have two rights. One is the preferential right on the dividend. the dividend, or they may have the guaranteed dividend also. Then they have a preferential right on the repayment of the capital during liquidation. They will have the preferential right in the liquidation. When the company winds up and when the capital is paid up, the first priority in first the preference shares are paid, then the remaining part will go to the equity shares. Now what are the equity shares? Equity shares are those shares which are not preference shares. Equity shares are those shares which are not preference shares. Again, where it is given? It is also given in the section 2 of Companies Act 2013. As I said earlier, all the definitions are given in section number 2. So equity shares have two types. One is with equal rights, one is with the differential rights. Equal rights are those who have equal rights against the dividend, voting and other things. And the differential rights are those who have different rights to the dividend and the voting. So this is about the shares. Now there is something called as the share capital. Share capital is nothing but the total amount of the shares. For example, a total amount into quantity of the total amount of the shares issued. So here we will have authorized share capital. What do you mean by authorize? Who is authorizing here? Authorization is given by SEBI. Okay, so SEBI authorizes the company to raise 1 lakh share capital. I am giving example. To raise 1 lakh share capital. That means 1 lakh will become authorized share capital. In 1 lakh, the company may call for 1 lakh at the same time, or they may keep something as a reserved capital and call for partial, like it may call for 50,000 shares only. So that time what happens? That whatever the company has called, whatever the company is ready to give away the shares in the market, that is called as the issued share capital. Then there is something called as a subscribed share capital. 50,000 I have already issued to the market. There is no guarantee that all 50,000 amount will be subscribed by the shareholders. It may get undersubscribed, means less than 50,000 may get subscribed, or it may get oversubscribed. Oversubscribed means more than 50,000 may get subscribed. Then there is something called as the called up capital. Called up means what? Whatever I have issued. Then paid up capital. Paid up means how much the amount is paid. Then reserve capital, as I said, the capital, the authorized issued capital, authorized capital minus the issued capital. Whatever the capital is not issued. Shares can be issued in two ways. One is at par. At par means what? Equal. Par means equal. Premium. Premium means what? More than equal. Say for example 100 rupees share I am issuing for 100, it is called as par. 100 rupees share I am issuing for 120, 20 rupees premium I am adding, that is called as the premium. And you can also issue the discount shares. Discounts means what? 100 rupees share is issued for 80 rupees, but you cannot issue the discount share in the normal market. Only the sweat equity shares can be issued. Now what are the sweat equity shares? You can make out with this term itself. Sweat means the persons who have sweat or worked hard for the company, for them you are giving some shares at a discounted price. It is called as the sweat equity shares. So 100 rupees share can be given to them for 50 rupees for some lock-in period. Normally they will give lock-in period. That means what? Once the share is issued, immediately they cannot sell it in the market. They have to wait till that lock-in period is over, and after that lock-in period is over, then they can sell the share in the market. So that is called as the sweat equity shares. Then what are the important terms related to the shares? One is the rights issue, private placement of the shares, sweat equity shares. Sweat equity share, just now I have told you, employee stock option plan and buyback of the shares. What do you mean by a rights issue? What do you mean by a rights issue? See, what happens is the company has already issued some shares and the company is having some shareholders. So again the company wants some funds. So the company gets the permission from the SEBI and it wants to issue the new set of shares. That point of time, what company does is it first goes to the existing shareholders. See, we are issuing a new set of shares. Do you want to purchase these shares? So when they go to the existing shareholders, that process is called as the rights issue. That is called as the rights issue. Then there is something called as the private placement of share. What is private? Private means what? Private is nothing but it is to the specific or the selected groups. The shares are not made publicly open. They are given to the specific group. That is called as a private placement of share. I'll give one example. Shapurji Palonji is one of the major stakeholder of Tata Sons. Okay, so this Shapurji Palonji, some shares have been issued under the private placement for this. So to make this one, when that inception was done, it is not now. Then sweat equity share already I have discussed. Employee stock option scheme. Employee stock option scheme means what? Some companies in the way of incentive, in the way of bonus, or sometimes in the way of salary remuneration itself, don't pay cash. They may be paying cash, but along with the cash, they also issue some company shares to the employees. That is called as the employee stock option scheme, and most of the companies have such scheme. Then there is something called as a buyback of shares. Buyback means what? Buying the shares from the market. The company buys its shares from the market for the specific price. That is called as a buyback of the shares. Then there is something called as a debentures. What are the debentures? Debenture is a debt instrument. Debenture is a debt instrument. That means what? You issue this debenture, the person will become a debtor. Okay, the person will become a debtor. The person will become a debtor. Yes or no? That means from company perspective, the person is a creditor, and from a person perspective, the company is a debtor. Correct? So there is a debt instrument. So it is nothing but the document that creates the debt or acknowledges it. So debentures are again issued at par, premium, discount. As I said, par means equal. Premium means more than equal. Discount means less than equal. So at par premium it is issued. Then redemption has to be done. See, what is redemption? Redemption is, see, you have, what is happening, I will tell you. Okay. ABC company it is there. Okay. This is the ABC company. So you have given him a debenture, you have given him debenture. Like it is an instrument you have given. For that debenture, he has paid you, say for example, 1 crore rupees. At some point of time, you have to give back that 1 crore rupees that person. At some point of time, you have to give back that 1 crore rupees to that person. That is called as the redemption of the debentures. So how you can go into redeem? You can redeem it once that lifetime of the debenture is attained, that is on maturity. You can redeem it in installments, like 1 crore, you can pay 25 lakhs installments, or you can purchase other debentures and redeem the other debentures. So those are the things. From where the funds are going to arise for the redemption? The funds can come from the capital and they can also come from the profits. There is according to the SEBI, if you have issued a debenture, if say for example you have issued 100 rupees as a debenture, 25 rupees has to be reserved as debenture reserve fund or debenture redemption reserve. That has to be reserved every year, so that till that 100 rupees attains maturity, you have enough funds to pay to the debenture holder and redeem your debenture, source of revenue. Then the next comes is final accounts. So what are the final accounts? Final accounts comprise of balance sheet, profit and loss account, cash flow statement, statement of changes in equity, and along with all these four you explanatory notes. Okay, note number 1, note number 2, all those things will come. You might have learnt in final accounts. So then goodwill. Goodwill is name and fame of the company. It is an intangible asset. The value cannot be determined accurately. We have to make various assumptions in order to ascertain the value of goodwill. So one is a simple average. The methods to ascertain the value of goodwill are average profit method, super profit method, capitalization method, annuity method. So 4 methods are there. Remember, average profit method, super profit method, capitalization method, annuity method. In the average profit method, 2 methods are there. We will not discuss these methods completely because you will be having MCQs. So there is a reason complete discussion is not required. So just you have to remember, simple average profit method is there, weighted average profit method is there. In super profit method, it is only one. Capitalization method, capitalization of average profit, capitalization of super profit. Annuity method is single. Then valuation of shares. There are 3 methods how you are going to value the share. One is net asset value method, NAV. Sometimes in exam they may give just NAV. Then yield valuation method. Then the last one is a fair value method. Fair value, it is not fail, it is a fair value method. Then something comes which is called as the amalgamation. What do you mean by amalgamation? Amalgamation means the mixture. Amalgamation means the mixture. So 2 or more companies are brought under common control. That is called as the amalgamation. It can be a merger. It can be a merger. Okay. What do you mean by merger? Merger means, say for example, company A and company B are combining and company C is forming. You can see the company A is different entity, company B is different entity, and the formed company is also completely different entity. Then acquisition. Acquisition means what? Say for example, company A, a big company, company B, a small company, forms a company A only. That means what? The one company loses its separate identity and only one company will survive. That is called as the acquisition. So this question is asked many times. Amalgamation is stated in which accounting standard? So you have to remember accounting standard 14. You have to remember accounting standard 14 is for the amalgamation. So as I said, the amalgamation can be of the nature of a merger and it can be nature of a purchase. So after the when amalgamation is happening, what are the 2 methods by which you can do the accounts? One is the pooling of interest method and one is the purchase method. You just remember these methods. No need to go inside what is that method because the questions are multiple choice. Next is, what do you mean by a holding company? What do you mean by a subsidiary company? So holding company is that company which acquires majority equity shares in the subsidiary company. Subsidiary company is that company which controls which is controlled by the holding company. Okay, holding company is that company which is acquiring shares in the subsidiary company. Subsidiary company is controlled by the holding company. Then the cash flow statement. I am not going to tell what is cash flow statement. You remember these 3 words only. Which are those 3 words? Operating activities, investing activities, financing activities. In cash flow statement you will find 3 activities from which the cash flow arises. One is operating activities, one is the investment activities, and one is the financing activities. So now we'll just go through some questions which have arisen in previous year exams as well as some important questions which we have prepared. So number first question is, which of the following is not an intangible asset? You pause the video, take 2 seconds of time, try to find out the answer. So the answer is investment. Here you can see goodwill is an intangible asset, copyright are an intangible asset, patents are also the intangible assets, whereas the investment is not an asset. Then valuation of inventory is dealt with in which accounting standard? Initially I had shown you the accounting standards, so you may remember where the valuation of inventory comes. It comes under accounting standard 2. Then errors are, what do you mean by the errors? Errors are nothing but the unintentional mistakes. If it is an intentional mistake, it will become fraud, and if it is an undetected mistake, it may not remain as an error. Then which of the following is correct? So this is the formula, owner's equity. So how will you calculate the equity? What is the formula to calculate the equity? It is nothing but assets minus liabilities, correct? So you can see here, current assets plus fixed assets minus current liabilities plus long-term liabilities. So you can see answer C is correct. Okay, the line is drawn. Next, question number 4. Goodwill generated in merger and amalgamation is accounted as per accounting standard. Where it is accounted? It is accounted under accounting standard 14, as it is given in accounting standard 14. The asset side of the balance sheet of bank consists of, on the asset side what is there? On the asset side you will find cash balances with the other banks. Then what is the dividend paid by the company is debited to which account? The company is paying the dividend. From which account it is paying? It is paying from the profit and loss appropriation account, or you can say it is below the line item. Once you arrived at the profit, afterwards you take out the dividend. Then the bonus shares are given out of what? The bonus shares can be given out of security premium, it can be given of capital redemption reserve, it can also be given out of the revenue reserve. So bonus shares are given out of, can be given out of all these. What are bonus shares? You may know. Bonus shares are nothing but the free shares given to the existing shareholders. Those are called as the bonus shares, correct? Say for example you are holding 3 shares of a company, so the company will issue a bonus share in 3:1 ratio, that every 3 shares you will be getting 1 extra bonus share. So that is a bonus shares. How they are given, from where we are issuing these shares? We may be issuing from security premium, we issue from capital redemption reserve, and we also issue from revenue reserve. Loss of goods sent on consignment is that of. That means what? Whenever goods are sent, and if loss is happening, some truck accident is happening, fire activity is happening, the ship is getting drowned in the sea. So that point of time, who will bear that loss? So consignee, consignor, consumer, who will bear that loss? So there are various types. So the loss is normally borne by any of these, depending upon the contract what they have entered into. There are various types of consignment contracts. According to the contract, the loss is entered. What is the goodwill? Goodwill is the ability. So goodwill is the ability of a firm to earn what? Super profit. Yes or no? Normal profit they are earning, goodwill is not required. Speculative profit is something which is imaginary in nature. Okay, gut feeling, on the basis of gut feeling. The answer is super profit. Then group of accounts are prepared to consolidate the accounts between whom and whom? Holding company and a subsidiary company, holding and associated company, holding subsidiary and associated company, none of the above. The group accounts are created or prepared for holding and the subsidiary company. So these are the questions on the accounts. Okay, so I hope this is very clear. We will be solving some more questions and sending you some question papers. So in the next session we will be discussing about the cost accounting. So hope whatever we have discussed is clear to all. Thank you so much for listening. Please wait for the next link which will be shared with you very shortly. Thank you so much.